Good morning.
Morning.
How are you this morning?
So far, so good.
All right, ma'am. You're going to need to put that mic close to your mouth when you're talking so that we can hear you. You indicated to the court that you have some knowledge about Mr. Loyd's case. Is that correct?
Yeah, I live down here, so yes. I had
You
heard
live
about it
what?
when it happened.
You live near there? What did you just say?
I live down here. I live near Lockhart, so
Okay.
I kind of knew about it.
So how much of it did you watch?
I guess just the evening news.
And since it happened, did you watch more coverage?
No.
No? Right. As a result of what you watched on TV, did you form an opinion as to Mr. Loyd's guilt? Not really? There are no right or wrong answers to this, ma'am. We're not going to give you a grade at the end of it. You just need to tell us the truth. Okay?
Yeah, so I guess he was guilty.
Okay. So in watching it, you decided, you formed the opinion that he was guilty. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Jurors have to be able to presume Mr. Loyd to be innocent until and if the state proves he's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Some folks can do it, some folks can't. It's not a problem either way. Do you believe you could presume him to be innocent, or would you be thinking he was guilty, but you're willing to listen?
I'm going to guess more that he's guilty.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. State.
8 moves. Very good.
All right, thank you, ma'am. I don't think this is the case for you. We really appreciate your willingness to serve. You are excused as a juror in this case, and enjoy the mask. It's our gift to you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. The juror in seat 26, please. Good morning.
Morning.
How are you this morning?
I'm doing okay, and yourself?
I'm doing well, thank you. You indicated to me, let me start by telling you, ma'am, that the only thing the court's looking for is for you to just tell us what you actually think and feel, all right? We're not looking for specific answers. There are no right or wrong answers to these questions, all right? You indicated to us that you had seen some footage of Mr. Loyd, or you'd heard some information, all right?
Yes.
What is it that you saw?
Well, I saw from the beginning when the news came up of the shooting of the girlfriend and the unborn child, and of him going to Walmart and shot and killed the deputy.
Okay. And after the Walmart, did you watch more coverage of it?
Yes.
How did you continue watching it throughout the years, or was there some point where you stopped?
No, I just, when you're looking at the news, clips will come up. Also on Facebook, clips will come up
Okay.
about it.
And do you normally just read the clips, or do you in Facebook especially, do you comment, or do you just read the
No,
clips?
I just look through.
Okay. As a result of all of that, have you formed an opinion as to whether or not Mr. Loyd is guilty?
Well, due to my religious belief, I'm very biased towards this case. I kind of made an opinion about it, but, biased about it.
It's okay. And what is your opinion as to whether or not he's guilty?
I honestly, I oppose the death penalty due to my religious background. I can have, someone's life in my hand.
Okay, but my question is, have you formed an opinion as to whether Mr. Loyd is guilty?
Kind of, yes.
Okay. Do you think you could keep an open mind in this case, or you pretty much decided?
I kind
You've
of
decided?
decided,
Okay. State,
State moves, Your Honor.
defense?
We agree.
All right, ma'am. Based on that and your position on the death penalty, this isn't the case for you. We appreciate your willingness to serve, so I'm excusing you as a juror in this case. You are free to go, ma'am.
Thank you.
Juror in seat 27. Good morning, ma'am. How are you?
Good morning.
All right, ma'am, I just have a few questions for you. You need to just tell me what you really think. There's no grade for these answers. We're not looking for a particular answer. We're just trying to find out what you actually think, know, and feel. All right? So you indicated you know something about this case. How have you heard about the case?
On the television, on the news.
How much news did you watch about this case?
Not very much, but I did see some of it.
And how long ago was that?
Oh, it's been a while. Oh, no.
Okay. Was it when it first happened?
First happened, yes.
All right. Did you watch several days of it? One day? What did you?
One day.
One day? Okay. Based on that, did you form an opinion as to whether or not Mr. Loyd is guilty?
No,
You did not form an opinion?
no.
Okay. Can you tell me what it is you saw when you were watching?
I can't remember.
You don't remember? Okay. All right. Well, jurors are required to be able to presume that Mr. Loyd is innocent until and if the state can prove he's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Do you believe that you could do that?
To be honest with you, I'm having trouble deciding whether the death penalty,
All right.
whether he's guilty or not, to make that choice.
So your problem is the penalty phase if we got there. All right.
Correct.
Do you have a religious or moral objection to the death penalty?
Yes.
All right. And forgive the personal nature of these questions, but I have to ask this. What religion are you?
Baptist.
Okay. How long have you held this belief?
I've always held it.
The law requires that a juror who sits on these types of cases be able to listen to the state's case. If we got to a penalty phase, you have to listen to the evidence the state presents with an open mind as to aggravators, reasons they believe death is the appropriate sentence. The defense then puts on evidence of mitigation, mitigators, the reasons they believe life without the possibility of parole is the appropriate sentence. You then go back, as I told you, and you weigh the aggravators and the mitigators, and you have to vote either life or death. If the evidence and the facts led you to believe that death was the appropriate sentence, would you be able to vote for death?
No.
All right. State,
State moves, Your Honor.
defense, you can, briefly.
How are you doing, ma'am?
Well,
Have you actually thought about, before you came here today, having to deal with the issue of the death penalty?
yes, ever since I've been a juror on this, I've been thinking about that. I don't believe no one should take anybody's life.
Okay. And so have you ever struggled with the issue that to be a part of the community, there are laws and we need to enforce those laws, and that even though you have a conviction, you may be able to follow the laws because you're a law-abiding citizen?
I can, but again, it's in the back of my mind. I believe that only God should be able to, make that decision, not another person. We just become whatever that, if he's guilty or not, we just become what he just did, took a life.
Okay. And that's ingrained in you, believe?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. You have any objection you want to record, Mr. Lynn?
No.
All right. Ma'am, we appreciate your honesty. This isn't the case for you. You're discharged as a juror in this case. Thank you so much for your willingness to serve.
No.
You're free to go.
Thank
The
you.
mask is all yours to keep. All right, juror in seat 33. Yeah. Oh, I was typing your whole name. Tricky, very tricky. All right, thanks. Good afternoon, or good morning, sir. How are you? All right. You're juror number 33?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And that would make you juror number 42, right? Your badge number is 42?
No, 42.
Yeah. All right, sir. You said you'd heard something about this case?
Yeah, I saw the news about this case before,
Okay.
in 2017.
Did,
We said Smith William killing the girlfriend and officer by the Walmart.
I can't understand.
Yeah, he killed the girlfriend and police officer.
did you form an opinion as to whether Mr. Loyd was guilty at that time?
Yes, he's guilty for.
Okay. Do you think you would be able to put that opinion aside and listen to the testimony in this case? Or would you believe he's guilty?
Yeah, he's guilty.
All right. State.
State moves.
All right. Thank you, sir. I'm going to excuse you from this case. I don't think this is the case for you, but we appreciate your willingness to serve. You're free to go. Thank you. You can keep that mask. Oh, good Lord. That was 33. I'm sorry. All right. Juror in seat number 38. Yes, it is. Thank you. The mystery is solved. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Morning.
All right, just have a few questions for you right now. You said you'd heard about this case.
Yes.
Tell me where you heard about it.
Well, I live here. I've been living in Orange County since 2004. I remember that particular day. I was gonna get a haircut, and there was traffic in that area, and I didn't know what it was going on. By the time I got home, I heard, what was going on or whatever. But pretty much heard the news and heard about the first part with the girlfriend or whatever. Heard the name on the radio and the news. So, I pretty much
Okay.
knew what was
And since
happening.
that time, have you followed any of the news coverage?
Yes. Particularly the first case where he got the
You
first.
followed the first trial?
Yes.
All right. Did you actually watch it, or you just heard about it on the news?
We watched it for a day. Nothing, not like I watch it religiously or anything.
So based on all of that, have you formed an opinion as to whether or not Mr. Loyd is guilty?
Yes.
Okay, and what is that opinion?
That he is guilty.
Jurors are required to be able to put that aside and presume he's innocent. Can you presume he's innocent, or are you pretty much thinking he's guilty?
I pretty much think he's guilty.
Okay. State?
State moves.
Fence? All right, thank you, sir. You are excused. This isn't the case for you, but you're excused as a juror. Appreciate your willingness to serve. You're free to go.
Okay. Take a turn.
All right, the juror in seat number 17 has been moved to the 10:30 since they were late. Juror in seat 22, please. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, sir, I'm going to be asking you some questions, and the attorneys are going to ask you some questions. Here's the rule. Don't worry about what your answer is. There are no right or wrong answers to these questions. There's just the truth, and that's all we're asking you to tell us, okay? Have you heard anything about this case prior to coming into this courtroom?
No.
All right. What is your position or beliefs about the death penalty?
With like the facts presented in front of me, I make decisions based on that. So I don't have no I don't oppose it or not. It just depends on the facts.
Okay. So do you have any religious or moral objections to the death penalty?
No.
Are you someone who believes that if someone is convicted of first-degree murder, they should automatically be sentenced to death?
No.
As I explained to you, if you got to a penalty phase, it would mean that Mr. Loyd had been convicted of first-degree murder. Now you're in a penalty phase. State's going to present evidence of their aggravators. Defense is going to present evidence of their mitigation, their mitigators, reasons they believe he should be sentenced to life. Aggravators are reasons to sentence someone to death. You go back in the jury room, you've got all the evidence, all the facts, you're weighing this out, you're free to discuss it with your fellow jurors or not. It's really up to you. But in the end, you have to vote. If the evidence and the facts and everything led you to believe, you personally, to believe that life without the possibility of parole is the appropriate sentence, could you vote for that?
Yeah.
And if the evidence and the facts led you personally to believe that death was the appropriate sentence, could you vote for that?
Yes.
I told you that Mr. Loyd's raised the defense of insanity. Is there anything about that defense that causes you to think, I'm not going to buy that?
I mean, if there's like facts to back it up that he had some medical issues, then I'll be more open-minded to that. So it just depends on the...
So this would be in the guilt phase. If the evidence, you listen to all the evidence, and if the evidence led you to believe that, and the burden is on the defense on that one to prove it by clear and convincing evidence, but if it led you to believe that Mr. Loyd was in fact insane at the time of the incident, could you vote not guilty?
Yeah.
All right. And lastly, can you follow my instruction that what I told you about Sade Dixon and the unborn child and the life sentence, that is not evidence that Mr. Loyd is guilty in this case? You can't use it for that. Can you follow that instruction?
Yeah.
Is there any issue at all with you about serving on this case?
No, there's no issues.
You have no issues with your job?
No, they pay for like the remainder of the service, so...
So they pay for the whole 3 weeks?
Yeah.
You live in Orange County?
Yes.
All right. I don't have any other questions for you, sir. State, you may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So start with a simple question. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being you adamantly oppose the death penalty, and 10 being you're in favor of it in every situation, and I was listening to you, okay, so don't think that I wasn't. Where would you put yourself on that scale of 1 to 10?
I put like a 7.
A 7. Okay. So 7 is, if my math is right, 5 is in the middle, right? So 7 is two shots above, or 2 numbers above 5 and closer to 10. I don't know why I just went through all that with you. It's pretty basic. Tell me why you're a 7 rather than a 5 or a 4. What is it that's going through your mind about the death penalty as a possible penalty?
Just because it's like the word murder, and then like rarely to me it's like some cases, or insanity plays a role or something else. But most of the time, I think when it comes to a murder, then, they should go to the death penalty.
Okay, so, and I'm going to restate what you said so that I know that it's correct. And if I'm wrong, tell me, okay? What I think I heard you say is that your belief is that if people kill someone else, if one takes another's life, in most situations, not all, but most, you believe in sort of an eye for an eye kind of thing.
Yeah, and depends on the facts, again, and the evidence presented in front of me, too. So, like, with all that and taken in consideration.
Okay, and you said that twice now about the facts, and I understand that. So let's talk a little bit more about that. The judge sort of, and this is not critical of the judge, but she sort of threw all the information at you because that's what we have to do. I don't believe you've ever been a juror before. Is that right? You've never been a juror?
No.
Okay. So this conversation about a potential penalty only becomes an issue if Mr. Loyd is convicted of first-degree murder. You understand that?
Yeah.
And in Florida, the only punishments for first-degree murder are life in parole or death. So if he's convicted, then we would have a separate phase of the trial with potentially some different evidence. Right? And we would go first, the state would go first. We would present evidence of those aggravating factors that the judge discussed. And those are things just like they sound, things about how the crime was committed, who the victim was or the nature of the victim, or maybe even things about the defendant that make this particular first-degree murder somewhat aggravated, above, if there is such a thing, of a normal, unaggravated first-degree murder. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right. After we presented that evidence, the defense has an opportunity to present evidence of mitigating circumstances. And those are things just like they sound. They mitigate or lessen the significance of the murder, the aggravation. And there are reasons that they will submit to you that life is an appropriate sentence rather than death. Now, no matter what you hear and how you feel about the aggravating factors or about what you hear about first-degree murder, you're obligated as a juror to listen to the mitigating circumstances and give them fair consideration. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Overruled. You can answer.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, it's one thing to say, yeah, I'll listen to everything. But it's another thing to understand that you cannot allow your emotions to take over. So given that
I didn't hear the whole question. He said you cannot allow your emotions.
to take over.
It's not related to mitigation. I mean, he's not allowed to let his emotions take over either aggravators or mitigators. So,
Yes, Judge. Is that overruled, Your Honor?
yes, go ahead.
So you would need to give meaningful consideration and listen no matter what. Can you do that?
Yes.
You're certain that you can?
Yes.
All right. If after listening to the mitigating circumstances, you're going to be asked to weigh the aggravating factors against the mitigating circumstances, and if and only if the jury unanimously agrees that the aggravating factors outweigh the mitigating circumstances, then you all would decide or be authorized to vote to impose a sentence of death. That's your role in the process. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Any questions that you have about that?
No, that was clear.
Okay. Another 1 to 10 scale question for you. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being that you want to run out of here as fast as you can, 10 being that you're really excited about sitting and being a member of the jury, where would you rate your participation or your desire to participate as a juror?
10.
A 10. Okay, so you really want to be a part of this process.
Yes.
Can you tell me why that is?
It's a experience that, as a citizen of the United States, it's a privilege. And, with honesty and integrity, we could, together as jurors, make a fair decision on this case.
Okay. The judge also indicated to you, or all of the jurors, potential jurors, that insanity might be a topic that comes up. Because of that, I need to ask if you or anyone close to you has ever dealt with the issue of mental illness.
No.
No. All right. Given that, do you believe that mental illness is real and that it exists and impacts people?
Yeah, I believe it's real.
Okay. If it were proven to you, and the judge will give you a more detailed instruction, but if it were proven to you that the circumstances that need to be met for a person to be not guilty by reason of insanity, could you follow that and reach that finding if that were proven?
Yes.
Okay. The last question I have for you is there anything in your background or life experiences that you think we should know about you, given that we're trying to select the most fair and impartial jurors for this case? As an example, sometimes people say, you know, my cousin was murdered 10 years ago, and that was really hard on my family. Anything in your mind that sticks out that you think is important for us to know?
Not at this time. I mean, I don't know if this is relevant. I mean, I'm an artist too, so I'm very open-minded to anything.
You're an artist?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
what kind of art do you do?
I paint, do graphic design. So I don't know, my mind is different. I just, very analytical when it comes to my art. So
Okay.
yeah.
You don't hear that often, analytical when it comes to art.
Yeah, because I'm a perfectionist.
Okay. Fair enough. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Mr. Lenneman, you may inquire.
Thank you, Judge. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good, thank you. How about yourself?
So you are real excited about being on this jury if you can, right?
Yes.
Okay. You had said, and I just want to make sure I understand this, you had said that most of the time when someone is convicted of murder, they should receive the death penalty. Is that right?
Yeah.
Why? Why do you believe that?
Just because it's, you murdered somebody and then just if the facts back that up, you deserve punishment as well. So that's just my thought of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long have you had that belief?
A pretty long time,
Now, are there certain types of murders that you believe deserve the death penalty more than others?
Yes. Pedophile, rapes, stuff like that. They deserve, yeah.
Okay. What about when someone intentionally killed someone?
Intentionally, yes.
Okay. And why, in your mind, does that person deserve the death penalty?
Just because it's, you intended to kill somebody, and then you're not going to get away with it. You're just going to sit in, jail and prison, and it's just not fair. Like, you intended to kill that person, so you deserve that.
Do you think that a person who receives life in prison without the possibility of parole is not receiving a fair sentence if they had murdered someone with premeditated murder?
Can you rephrase that?
Well, there's two sentences, life and death, life without the possibility of parole, and the death penalty. You've said you strongly believe in the death penalty. In most cases, when someone is murdered, they should get that. Is that right?
Yeah.
Fair assessment? All right. So my question is, in a situation where someone who you believe deserves the death penalty because of the actual case that they were involved in receives a life without parole sentence, do you think that's fair?
Evidence that was provided, then yes.
Okay. Is there a situation in your mind where if someone commits a murder, it falls into that bracket that you had talked about, that most of people who commit murder should receive the death penalty? If someone commits a murder, that you believe they should automatically get the death penalty?
Based on the evidence, yes.
Okay. Based on the offense?
Yeah.
Let me see the attorney's expense. All right, sir. I want to thank you for your service. I don't think this is the case for you. We appreciate your willingness to serve. So few people are willing to serve in these types of cases. We appreciate it very much, but I'm going to excuse you as a juror in this case. Have a good day. You
All
can
right,
keep
thank
that
you.
mask as a little present. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I should have two. I should have 28 and 39 back there. Do we have the juror in seat 28 back there? Yes. All right, let's bring that one up. Yeah. Yep, you are. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Doing good.
Sir, you did not indicate that you know anything about this case, correct?
Correct.
All right. And do you have any issues at all with serving on this jury?
It wasn't really brought up with the other questions that you asked the other day, but my girlfriend is going on a mission trip to South Sudan for 9 months, and she leaves on November 10th. So if I were to be here for 3 weeks, that would be really hard to not see her. That's it, though.
All right. Thank you for letting me know that. How long is she going to be gone?
9 months.
9 months? Okay. All right, let me ask you some basic questions. Number one, what is your position on the death penalty?
I think it's, based on the circumstances, it is the correct punishment for first-degree murder.
You say based on the circumstances?
Yeah. Not these circumstances, but...
You need to speak up, sir. All right.
Okay. Do you mind, since I'm away from people, can I just take this down?
Just kind of tuck it, loosen it from the bottom,
Yeah.
and that usually,
I'll just look like this.
you can't take it down is the problem.
Okay.
You have to have the mask on. He's the juror in seat 28. Yeah. All right, sir. Tell me what you mean by based on the circumstances.
Based on circumstances of in any case, I think that it can be a correct punishment.
Right. Is there any case that in your mind someone should automatically be sentenced to death on?
I'd have to think about it. I'm not sure.
Okay. Do you have a religious or moral objection to the death penalty?
Not objection. I would say I'm a devout Christian, and I
Okay.
believe in absolute truth, in moral absolutes as well.
Okay.
I think God's moral law is a very good standard for punishments for breaking the law.
All right. So if someone is convicted of first-degree murder, do you have in your mind something that you believe is the appropriate punishment?
I'd say that the death penalty would be the correct punishment.
All right, sir. The law in the state of Florida is not that, all right? The law in the state of Florida is if someone is convicted of first-degree murder, in some cases, the death penalty is an option.
Correct. Yeah.
The sentence for first-degree murder is life without the possibility of parole. Follow me so far?
Yes.
And in some cases, the death penalty becomes an option because of the existence of what are called aggravators.
Yeah.
But even with the existence of aggravators, there's no automatic death penalty.
I understand.
You understand all of that?
Yes.
Okay. So the law is that as a juror, during the penalty phase, you have to be able to listen with an open mind and consider both the state's aggravators and the defense's mitigators. Aggravators are reasons to sentence someone to death. Mitigators are reasons to sentence someone to life.
Yes.
You've got to weigh those fairly with an open mind and then come to your personal decision about what you believe the appropriate sentence is. So if at the end of all of this and all the evidence, you've heard all the evidence and all the facts, and you're not considering life or death unless someone's been convicted of first-degree murder. You understand that?
Yes.
All right. If the evidence and the facts led you to believe that the appropriate sentence was life without parole, can you vote for that?
Yes.
If it led you to believe that death is the appropriate sentence, can you vote for that?
Yes.
Is the mere fact that someone was convicted of first-degree murder going to lead you to vote for death?
No.
As I told you, Mr. Loyd has raised the defense of insanity, not guilty by reason of insanity. That would be in the guilt phase of the case. If you heard the evidence presented as to that, and that one, the defense has the burden by clear and convincing evidence. But if at the end of the guilt phase you had heard the evidence and you were convinced that he was insane at the time of the incident, would you be able to reach a verdict of not guilty?
Yes.
And lastly, can you follow my directive that the murder of Sade Dixon and the unborn child cannot be used by you as evidence that he's guilty of these charges?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, sir. State, you may inquire.
No questions.
Defense?
Yes, Good morning, sir. How are you?
Doing good.
All right. Now, I kind of was understanding about your faith, but can you be more specific about how your faith and your belief in God and his punishment system plays into the death penalty?
It does speak that about an eye for an eye, and those who take a life shall lose it.
Okay.
Obviously, I believe that there can be mitigating circumstances, and that's where I'm perfectly okay with life in prison instead.
Okay.
But if it's a straight up first degree murder, I believe that it should be the death penalty.
Automatically.
I guess yes. Then yeah. Sorry.
No further questions?
See the attorneys at the bench, please. All right, sir, I want to thank you for your service. I don't think this is the case for you, but I appreciate your willingness to serve and to be here. You're excused as a juror in this case, and you are free to go.
All right. Thank you.
This is seat 28, right? Yeah. Okay.
Good.
It's 39 back there? All right, seat 39. These are the two that weren't here. All right. All right, we have 17 and 39, who are the two that weren't here from the 9 o'clock group. Do we have anybody from the 10:30 here? No? What? I can't hear you. Turn your mic on. What?
I think that's better, Judge.
What? I didn't say anything. What is
Well, I
it?
thought you said you were going to wait for add these two to the 10, so you only have to go through yours.
Yeah, I don't really want to go through the preliminaries with these guys. I'd rather add them to the 10:30 group. It's 10 minutes after 10. Although, bring them in here. Let me ask them a couple questions. I want to
Okay.
see if they know anything about the case. If they're publicity folks and I can strike them, then I'm not even going to bother. If not, I'll bring them back into the 10:30 to instruct them. You can stop right there, ma'am. You can stop right there. All right, good morning. I have a couple of questions for the two of you. Well, first of all, I'll swear you back in a minute. Have either one of you heard anything about this case? Have either one of you heard anything about this case? If you have, raise your paddle. No, raise your paddle. Don't tell me what you've heard.